Welcome to Disconnecting from the Matrix, where the release is from within. I'm your host, Alice Kim, and today, with Valentine's Day coming up, I thought it would be cool to talk about love. What exactly is love? And do we even know what we mean when we talk about love? Stay tuned. Valentine's Day is around the corner, and because of that, there's been a lot of talk of the theme of love in the air. So in honor of Valentine's Day, I thought that it was a good time to speak about love. By the way, do you know the background to how Valentine's Day got started? Apparently, it has Christian origins, and the day was created to commemorate a group of martyrs who all went by the name of Valentine or something similar. And at some point in the history of the church, they had given of their lives in the name of the church and of their faith and of God. I haven't gotten far enough in my quick research to figure out how that became the secular day of celebrating romantic love as we've all come to know it. But apparently the story is that the day was created as St. Valentine's Day to honor a bunch of dead saints. So let's talk about first what love means in a conventional way to most people. And to do that, I got a little help from dictionary.com. And here's what I got when I put in a search for the word love. These are the top 3 definitions. 1. A profoundly tender, passionate affection for another person. 2. A feeling of warm personal attachments or deep affection as for a parent, child, or friend. And 3. Sexual passion or desire. I think that that's a pretty good general definition of what most people would agree would be commonly understood meanings of love. It sounds about right. So now what I want to talk about now is that is really not the entire picture. And for those of you like me who are waking up and have expanded your understanding of love, you will know that what most people know as conventional love is a very small sliver of the whole scope of the true meaning of love. And if I were to look at it a different way, it even has absolutely nothing to do with what the true meaning of love is, which I will get into in a bit. The conventional sense of love that I used to think it was, and that most people understand it to be, regardless of whether it has to do with a romantic partner or with anybody else, has something to do with a special feeling that you have for another person in the form of warmth, affection, great passion, desire, sweetness, tenderness, all depending on the object of your affection. So it's basically a placing of our emotions upon another person or persons. So that could be toward your spouse or your partner, or it could be toward your family member, and also to other beings like your pets. Like my kitty, her name's Chopin, and I love her dearly. In fact, she is here in my walk-in closet, sitting next to me, purring along as I'm recording this. So this idea of love, for the most part, is a love for another. A love that you place from yourself to another. And the thing is, we talk as if there's all these different kinds and levels of love. For instance, there's the love that you have for your friends, and then there's the love that you reserve for your family and your children, and then there's the love that you have for your romantic partners or your spouse, and the love you have for your pets. And then people differentiate love from being the regular kind of love, if there is such a thing, to what's called unconditional love. In fact, people talk about love, and then they talk about unconditional love as if there are different degrees to love. And that doesn't even make sense. Love, by its definition, is completely open. It is always unconditional. In fact, to say that love is unconditional, it's irrelevant or unnecessary. It's extraneous to use that term unconditional because love is. The definition of love, it just simply is. It's fully open and fully expansive. There are no conditions to it whatsoever, or otherwise it really wouldn't be love. So when you look into this conventional understanding of love, you'll realize, if you ever look in it, it is all conditional, all of it. So in a sense, I would say that our conventional understanding of love, you can say that it's a part of the bigger meaning of love, but at the same time, when you really look at it, this love that we experience, or we know it to be in this world, in this three-dimensional matrix, you can say that it actually has no resemblance to the real meaning of love, which happens to transcend all of this. Because if something is unconditional, how can it be conditional? And if something is conditional, how can it be unconditional? It doesn't even make sense. So again, we live in this world of paradox, in this 3D reality. We call something what it is, but when in fact, if you really look at it from another perspective, from an enlightened or awake perspective, it actually has nothing to do with what it appears to be. And like so many things, this applies to what we call and know as love. One of the most important elements, I would say, in all of our lives. But yet, not too many people have the slightest clue to what love's really about. And they go about thinking that they need to go out and get love in order to be loved, or that some people deserve their love while others don't, or that their self-worth depends on how much they are loved by others. They set these conditions to love, something that's totally unconditional, and then they wonder why love appears to elude them at every corner. Conventional love, what most people think is love, is conditional. And like all things in this matrix of duality, meaning a split world of black versus white, good versus bad, and you versus me, this is the only way concepts that transcend it, like love, can be understood in this dimension. Because as long as you're stuck in the matrix, that's the ceiling of capacity to know anything. There's really no way to understand anything that is beyond it. So love, as I keep saying, is unconditional, which means that there is no condition in which it will be affected by. There's nothing out there that can make it be anything else than it is. It's always constant and radiant, no matter what the circumstance or condition. But most people, they believe they're experiencing true love when in fact it's far from it. The couples, spouses, family members, friendships, whatever form of relationship they are, they always have to maintain the love, to defend the love, put rules and regulations and even laws to control love. They project onto another all these conditions to make up for their own sense of incompleteness, which comes from the inability to love themselves. So they look outside of themselves to fill themselves with the love that they can't give themselves. And then they turn to the object of their love, or what they think is love, and they say, if you loved me, you would behave a certain way. If you loved me, you would never do this to me. Or, if I love you, then you should love me back. You should show me how much you love me. If you loved me, then ... Fill in the goddamn blank. It's all an if-then belief system, which is another word for conditions. And frankly, they're all just selfish, immature demands for your own gain, like a junkie who needs a fix. The high that you get from stealing someone else's energy and then telling yourself that it's the rush you get from feeling loved. And then if you can't get the fix you want, then you lash out and punish the other person with anger, resentment, blame, guilt, and even violence. And the crazy thing is, some people even think that this is all a normal part of being in love. Wow. So I don't have kids, but I have a few longtime childhood friends who have told me over the years, as if to teach me some arcane truth of motherhood that I'm not privy to, that they are. They say to me, Alice, you will never understand the meaning of unconditional love until you have your own children. First of all, I start laughing because that's exactly what our parents used to say to us growing up. And now they're just spewing off childhood programming. And now they're so proud that they've completely validated the story they bought into by making it real for them, and which I'm sure they'll be passing it along to their children. It's like an endless game of telephone, if you're familiar with that game. Whenever I hear that, I can't help but come back with, you know what? I have to disagree because I can't think of a single more conditional type of love, which is an oxymoron in and of itself, by the way. But I can't think of a more conditional type of love than the one that you have for your own child. Really? Stop and think about it for just a second to hear the nonsense that you're telling me. I mean, of course, that usually doesn't go very well, but it gets me so fired up whenever I hear bullshit non-truths like these that continue to keep everyone dumbed down and lost in the matrix. It really pisses me off because I care, and my style is to come up to your face and dump that bucket of ice on you in my attempt to wake you the fuck up, and fast. I mean, I admit it's aggressive, but that's how passionate I am. And at the same time, because I'm fully aware that I can't fix another person, that's not my job. It's simply my way of punctuating a bit of insight for them to remember later, perhaps when the time is right for them. And even though I might come across as an asshole for saying something like that, I can also see why they might mistake the love of their children to be the pure love that they think it is. I would say that it has to do with seeing a reflection of yourself for the first time in the face of another individual, instead of the usual feeling of separateness we feel with others, even including our spouses or other close family members. The child or the children, they appear to come from a part of you, and seeing yourself in that child would, I suppose for most people, be the closest thing to loving yourself in a way which you could never do for yourself. So I can see how it can be helpful or insightful for those who are still trapped in the mass hypnosis prison of their own creation. But I also want for those around me to see, if they choose, perhaps in this lifetime, but one day, I want them to see what I see now with my eyelids have been cut off and I could never close them again, to the self-deception that I see all around me. Especially on something as important and essential as love, because that is truly the essence of our truth and therefore of our freedom. And if we don't come to know this, then we will never know ourselves. So this idea of love, as we know it in the Matrix, it's definitely not pure love. And even if we can say that it's a part of the overall meaning of love, I would still say that it's still a stretch. And at best, it's a very limiting understanding of love. But that's what the world, for the most part, currently knows it to be. To mistake for truth. What's called love in this conventional sense focuses on specialness, on separation, and always on conditions. It's outwardly focused. It projects specialness onto others who are deserving of our love due to our special associations and relationships to them, to the exclusion of everyone else. Now, could you honestly say that that is love? Because it sounds exactly like prejudice to me. The love we speak of in the Matrix, this is a special love. And here again is the paradox of this dimension, this false reality. Because as lovely as special love sounds, I mean, after all, what's more special than giving and receiving special love, right? Or at least that's how the story goes around here. But if you want to know the truth, if you want to be free, this special love must be released. This idea of special love, it's an obstacle, a barrier to your freedom. It is nothing but an illusion, a story, a fairy tale that you fell in love with, and something that has been programmed from early on in our lives. I mean, look at all of the Disney fairy tales, or any fairy tales for that matter, of the happily ever after, the princess and the prince falling in love and all of that shit. We get that fed into us, piped into us from so early on. And then only to grow up and to try to relive these stories. And with all stories, they're really just all made up. So, how to come to know true love without conditions and start to experience it in this life? First, again, know that love is unconditional, which means that there are no beliefs, no rules, and no restrictions and conditions on anything. Love is. It simply allows all things to be exactly as they are. It's completely neutral. It is non-dual. And unlike the emotion that we usually associate with love, this true love, this pure love, it has nothing to do with emotions. Rather, it is a state of being. An emotion, it's an artificial feeling based on conditions. But being does not need conditions. It just is. It's consciousness. And as consciousness creates your reality, what you are, what you be, is what you get. Therefore, instead of focusing on giving and receiving love to another projected being out there, just be love. And by that I mean that you must come to have full compassion, love, and acceptance for yourself first. I admit that's probably going to be the toughest thing in the world to do, and that's why the world is in denial and backward and trying to give and get love from the outside, just to make up for the lack of one's own ability to love self, to be love. And that's precisely the reason why the love out there is often so disappointing. It's dissatisfying and even painful. But if you are serious about knowing yourself, which is synonymous for being free, then you must turn inward and begin to learn to love yourself first. Self first. That is the best sense of the word selfish. we are talking about the enlightened meaning of love. Well, that's the enlightened meaning of being selfish or self-full, of loving yourself first. And the degree to which your consciousness becomes more loving of you can then the outer world reflect back to you exactly in kind. If you want truly loving relationships and a loving world to live in, then you must first be the love that you want to experience, and then everything will come to you without any effort on your part. It's just done. Just be it and it's done. You set it within yourself and you forget it. And on the flip side, if you see a loveless world with loveless people in your life who you try to love but won't love you back, it's only because you yourself have chosen not to love yourself. It's because you refuse to love yourself. You see, only the loving will find love everywhere, just like the unloving will find lovelessness everywhere. Remember this, as within, so without. Whatever your level of beingness, whatever your consciousness is within, that is exactly what you're going to get in your projection that you perceive as your reality. And that is exactly what the Bible means when it says, whoever has will be given more, and whoever does not have, even that which they have will be taken from them. That is the law of creation. And you, my friend, are the creator. And by the way, speaking of Bible verses and such, as we move forward, I'm going to be talking a lot about religion, and I'm going to be quoting a lot of things in the Bible. And what I want to do is when I quote them, I want to tell you what I have come to know is the meaning of some of the things that are written in the Bible, because as much as most of the stuff in the Bible is totally a crock of shit, there are certainly a few nuggets in there that actually aren't so bad, and that I know that has been coming from a higher level of consciousness. So there are certain things that are peppered into the Bible, and wherever applicable, I will bring it up and share with you what I've come to know of what they really mean versus how they are usually perceived to mean by conventional religious belief systems. So how do you start to be love? First, know that you are already love. That's your truth. And as truth, it has always been with you. You just happen to forget, to have temporary amnesia while playing this game in the Matrix. So all you need to do if you want to start to be love is to start becoming aware of all of the unloving thoughts and beliefs that you have about yourself and others. But, by the way, do note that all of your unloving thoughts of others has nothing to do with others. They're really just unloving thoughts of yourself that you've projected out. Just keep that in mind. But be aware of them all for now. And upon identifying these unloving thoughts and beliefs, you can then choose to release them. Layer by layer, like an onion, with each undoing of the layer, revealing more of the love that you are. But again, you must choose to want this. That's all it takes. Once you choose, it is as good as done. It's not enough just to be aware of it. You have to then make a decision. There's a quote by Rumi that totally nails this concept. Rumi said, "Your task is not to seek for love, but merely to seek and find all the barriers within yourself that you have built against it." Again, your task is not to seek for love, but merely to seek and find all the barriers within yourself that you have built against it. And these barriers are all of these unloving thoughts, which is no more than a refusal to love yourself. So stop looking outside yourself for completion and for validation, because with all things in the matrix, your release is always from within. Stop looking outside for love and start to undo, to release, to dismantle all the layers and reasons why you aren't deserving of your own love. And the more you come to love yourself, the more you've come to accept yourself exactly as you are and to embrace yourself, the more love and more affection and appreciation the world will reflect back to you in all areas of your life and in all of your relationships. So, this Valentine's Day, if you choose, take a moment to acknowledge the greatest Valentine, the greatest lover of all, the one that will give you all the love that you can ever handle or imagine in the purest sense, in the most free sense, and in the most true sense, inside and out. And that is yourself as love. That's all for today. So thank you for listening, and I will check you next time. If you've enjoyed the show and know of others who might also enjoy it, please help spread the word by sharing. Please visit disconnectmatrix.com. That's disconnectmatrix.com. There, you'll find all the recordings along with show notes for each episode, as well as ways to share with your network. And please leave a comment and start a conversation. In the website, you'll also find links to join me on social media where we can continue the dialogue. And if you'd like to stay in touch, you can subscribe to my email list. My email is alice@disconnectmatrix.com. I welcome your comments, questions, and any suggestions you have to help this show evolve and grow for the benefit of all awakening beings. In fact, I would love to have you heard on the show. If you'd like to state your questions or comments in your own voice for a chance to be included in upcoming episodes, please record your message starting with your name and location on a voice recording app on your device or computer and send the recording to alice@disconnectmatrix.com. Thanks again for joining me. Until next time.